Hey there, welcome back to another draw along. I was at work today and I saw this image of a skull and I thought it was pretty cool, and I liked that it was all just line work. It wasn't colored in. There's some simple hatching for shading around the eyes and the nose. I like the look of it. I like the bold line work on the outside, and all the lines on the inside are a little bit lighter. I thought that was kind of neat. It stood out. And the very circular eyeballs I thought were neat too. Anyway, I started to draw this when I was at work. And the way I approached it at first was, okay, I got this line on the top of the skull. I got this line coming down on the side. I got this line over here. Now this point and this point over here, this point's a little higher, so I want to make sure I want to draw the line like a little higher. And then this down line is longer than this down line, so let me think about that. Anyway, that's how I started drawing this skull, and I made my way around and come to find out that my proportions were off, and it started to look wonky not too far into the drawing. And then I remembered that we need to work big shapes to small shapes. And if you can simplify this image in your head, then you can, I think, begin to draw it with just more deliberately. And you might learn more along the way, regardless of how well it turns out. At least you were intentional and you gave it some thought before just going to town in the wrong direction, which isn't bad. You know, if that's what you want to do, that can be a practice as well. But for me, I wanted to draw this skull, and the shapes stood out to me after I messed up. Is the shapes of the skull itself, the rounded top 2/3 of the skull, and then the teeth at the bottom. I broke it down into those two shapes. So what I did first, and I'm not gonna draw too light here, I'm not gonna take this sketch to a finished drawing. I'm just gonna show you how to get started. So I have a circle for the top 2/3 of the skull. And then coming out the bottom of the skull is this squarish shape. There. I actually think that this circle is a little bit more oval. Just a little bit. So it's a little wider this way. But this is how I started the skull. And then I went back and started drawing these lines in kind of around the edge of this shape I just drew, this oval. And I didn't get too far into the drawing before I decided to revisit it now. So I'm like I said, I'm not gonna flesh this whole thing out. Flesh out a skull. I don't even know how you do that. But I'm just gonna at least draw these lines around. This is down a little bit. And get the basic shape of the skull in here. And I don't know if this is the right or wrong thing to do. Sometimes I compare, okay, this angle over here, is it higher or lower than that angle over here? I'm not doing that right now. I'm kind of just winging it. And maybe my proportions will still be off and this is all a moot point, but I'm not gonna know unless I try. Feeling pretty good about it so far. And then I'm not gonna do details of the teeth. I'm just gonna do sort of a curved line down here. Okay, so now what would bring this together is I'm gonna lay in some of the shapes like I laid in these two big shapes. I'm gonna lay in the shapes for the eyeballs and the nose. The nose is kind of a triangle, and it's off center to the left because the center line, maybe we should get the center line in here. The center line of the skull is right about there. Okay, I guess if we're going to it, we can draw the eye line in here too. Why not? You see that in tutorial videos, right? That this is how you implement it. And as you improve, you can see these lines in your mind's eye, and you won't have to draw them out all the time. When you see people drawing them, experienced people drawing them, I think it's more for educational purposes. Anyway, so the nose comes up to about there. I do want to lay these in accurately, and it comes down to the top of this. And then it's a little bit wider at the bottom. And then this line comes down, okay. And then this circle over here, let's see, is about that big. This circle over here is larger. I'm kind of, I was about to say I'm kind of eyeballing this. Man, I'm on it with the puns today. Okay, so now we have two eyes, and we have the nose, and teeth are down here. I really don't want to see this all the way through, but there's a couple lines for the brow line, and I'm trying to think of what angle on the side of the head this line meets. And it's kind of right there. And it kind of drops down at the end. Kind of drops down. Okay, so this is, I'm getting into the nitty gritty. This isn't a very, very detailed drawing, so anything more than this would be getting into the details. And you're welcome to take it that far if you'd like. I may come back and try again and see if I can take it a little bit further. I am seeing that my proportions are a bit off. The skull is a little squished this way. It's a little wider this way, but I'm aware of it. So if I chose to do this again, I could attempt to fix that. Or what I'm gonna do now is recognize that the proportions are different from the image, which is fine, and then continue on my way and adding some more detail. Anyway, I hope that was fun for you. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.